The first blow, arrogance in fire. The Zir Dominion had long considered themselves untouchable. Their fleets patrolled the spiral arms, their banners hung from broken worlds, and their archives carried no mention of defeat. On the colony world Eidolon's reach, 20,000 human settlers tilled red soil beneath twin suns. It was a frontier of promise, lightly defended, its people farmers and scientists, not warriors. The Zir saw weakness. When their fleet descended, the skies turned molten. Human defenses cracked within hours. Orbital bombardments flattened entire cities, and Zir commanders laughed as they transmitted the destruction live across their networks. Children screamed in the streets while the Zir celebrated every blast as proof that humanity was soft, slow, and unworthy of the stars. When the slaughter ended, Eidolon's reach was a smoking grave, a human colony gone. The Zir left behind a single message, burned into the ruins. Humans belong to the dirt, stay there. Aye, the celebration of cruelty. In the Zir capital spires, the warlords dined on crystal platters and toasted their victory. Their generals sneered at the very thought of reprisal. Earth is too civilized, they hissed. Too bound by treaties, too chained by morality. They will weep, perhaps beg, but they will not fight. Across their empire, the narrative spread. Hollow screens played looped footage of collapsing human towers. Zir academies taught the massacre as proof of their supremacy. Strike humanity, the warlords boasted, and nothing follows but silence. They misunderstood silence. For Earth, silence was not surrender. It was preparation. The breaking of silence. Weeks passed. No official response came from Earth. No declaration of war. The Zir warlords mocked humanity's grief as impotence. Then came the stillness. Trade lanes went dark. Human envoys vanished from galactic councils. Long-range arrays picked up faint disturbances, mass shadows moving where no fleets were charted. Unregistered signals, encrypted with codes so old they were thought extinct, pulsed across forgotten channels. The Zir laughed at rumors of Terran mobilization until their deep space outposts began to vanish. Entire garrisons cut off in silence, patrols never returning. The laughter died. And then came the broadcast. Every Zir world received it at once, overriding comms, piercing defenses, a voice cold and heavy with centuries of restraint now broken. This is Earth. You destroyed our colony. You murdered our families. You believed us incapable of reply. That belief is your last mistake. The message ended with coordinates, where humanity's fleets now gathered. Suns themselves seemed to dim under their shadow. Retaliation unleashed. When the Terran armadas emerged, the galaxy shook. From Sol's shipyards came dreadnought-class leviathans, hulls kilometers long, their flanks bristling with rail batteries that could crack moons. Carriers deployed swarms of autonomous strike craft, tens of thousands, each moving with inhuman precision. Behind them surged cruisers, artillery barges, and stealth destroyers rising from centuries of refinement. The Zir mustered their own fleets in answer. They had numbers, arrogance, and pride, but pride does not shield against annihilation. At the first engagement, human ships advanced without haste, without fury, but with grim certainty. Rail slugs tore Zir capital ships in half. Energy lances cored through dread fortresses once thought indestructible. Planetary shields that had stood for millennia collapsed in minutes. Zir admirals screamed orders, but every formation shattered under Earth's cold calculus. Humans did not waste fire. Every strike ended a life. Every maneuver dismantled entire strategies. One Zir fleet after another burned. And behind them, humanity pressed forward, not to reclaim territory but to erase it. The worlds erased. The colony's death had demanded more than battle. It demanded judgment. Earth's fleets descended upon Zir strongholds. Orbital bombardments were not wild or wrathful. They were precise, methodical, absolute. Cities became glass plains. Armories became molten craters. Shipyards vanished into expanding clouds of debris. On Vecth Prime, the Zir's greatest bastion, human marines landed like a thunderstorm. Black-armored, faceless, relentless, they advanced through fire and ruin, their rifles singing with magnetic thunder. Zir defenders broke before them, realizing too late that humanity had been underestimated not because of weakness, but because of patience. Patience had ended. One by one, Zir worlds went silent. Their spires toppled, their archives burned, their proud symbols reduced to ash drifting in the void. And all the while, humanity's fleets spoke only in action. No pleas, no negotiations, only the cold, deliberate eradication of those who thought them powerless. The fall of the Zir Dominion. The Zir begged their allies for aid, but the galaxy had already seen enough. No one dared stand between Earth and its vengeance. Neighbors shuttered their borders. Traders whispered of fleets blotting out suns, of Zir governors executed by orbital strikes before they could even surrender. Entire star systems gone dark. The Zir archives, once swollen with pride, now filled with screams. Generals who once mocked humanity now spoke only in desperate surrender codes, never answered. The Zir Dominion, forged in arrogance and cruelty, collapsed not over centuries but in weeks. Earth had erased not just their fleets but their very memory. Where Zir banners once flew, silence reigned, silence and fear. Aftermath, the whispered warning. When the vengeance ended, humanity did not gloat. They did not carve monuments from Zir bones or broadcast triumph to the stars. They simply withdrew. The human fleets returned to Sol, leaving behind ruins where once an empire had stood. The galaxy stared at the aftermath, terrified by its simplicity. A colony destroyed, entire worlds erased. On surviving outposts, Zir refugees whispered one phrase to their trembling children, passing it like sacred law. Never provoke Earth again. And across the stars, from fringe colonies to core empires, the lesson spread. Humanity was patient. Humanity was merciful. But when their patience was broken, when their mercy was mocked, their vengeance was infinite. Closing echo. The ruins of Eidolon's Reach still stand, silent beneath twin suns. A scar, a grave, and a promise carved into alien stone. The promise that Earth never forgets. The promise that retaliation is not always fire, but when fire comes, it consumes entire worlds. The Zir are dust, their arrogance forgotten. But the galaxy remembers the message written in their ashes. Never provoke Earth. The flames of arrogance. The world of Veyron was a jewel of humanity's frontier, a small, thriving colony of 70,000 souls, wrapped in forests and oceans under a pale gold sky. Families planted roots there, children played beneath domes of glass, and the settlers believed themselves secure. After all, humanity had treaties, accords, and alliances. The galaxy, they thought, had agreed. Colonies would not be touched. But not everyone respected such promises. The Drakthari descended like carrion beasts. They struck in daylight, their black ships blotting out the colony's sun. Their weapons burned through shields in seconds, melting cities into glowing rivers of slag. Families fled toward the forests, only to be hunted by drones and set aflame. Broadcasts went out pleas for mercy, for negotiation, but the Drakthari never answered. The slaughter was not war, it was sport. When the last of the shelters collapsed, the Drakthari fleet hovered in orbit and laughed. Their commanders shared the recordings galaxy-wide, calling humanity soft animals, slow breeders, and cowards in their iron shells. The colony of Veyron was ash, and the Drakthari celebrated, mocking the silent earth. In the halls of the Drakthari dominion there was no fear of reprisal. Humanity, they believed, was scattered across the stars like children playing at Empire. Earth was distant, a planet of scholars and diplomats, too cautious to raise a weapon. The Drakthari elite toasted their victory in crystalline towers. They replayed the images of human civilians burned alive and laughed at their screams. In their council chambers, admirals scoffed at the very idea of retaliation. "The Terrans will weep and build memorials," one declared. "They will send letters and delegations," another sneered. "Let them grieve. They will not lift their swords. They have forgotten how." And so the galaxy was told. Humanity was broken, incapable of vengeance. But the galaxy did not know Earth.